you want to be when you grow up? And I didn't know. My mom was a CEO, my father was a master judo. They were both on their self-development path. But my classmates, they want to be the most famous soccer player, they want to be a pilot, a lawyer, a doctor. I ran the same experiment to my 6 years old and asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, a YouTuber. I translated it as an influencer, which makes me quite happy. Looking at the data from the Education and Employment Report 2018, initiated by the OECD, 21% of elementary school, they want to become a sportsman or woman. And 10%, 11% want to become teachers, lecturers, 7% want to become veterinarians, 6% social media or gamers, and then 5 to 4% want to become police officer, doctor, or a scientist. And I was wondering why. The same report shows that the most influence on what you want to be when you grow up is our social agents, as TV, films, radio, and then our accountants. We do spend most of the day in school, right? Then, of course, social media. But when I ask my students, they come from all different backgrounds, all sorts of nations, and different social classes. What you want to be when you grow up? What you want to do after graduate? Most of them say, I don't know. There's so many options. Others say, I want to be rich. I want to build something fast and sell it faster. And some say, I want to have my own business. But what I rarely hear is, I want to make a change. I want to be in politics or a diplomat. The data back it up. Only 0.5% want to become politicians. And I asked what happened to the idea that students can change the world. Today I would like to talk about student activism. I truly believe students are superheroes, and let me convince you why. Let's have a bit of history. Before the World War, students were the authority, the power. The students at Tokyo Imperial University were the sons of bureaucrats, politicians, and market leaders. They became the next leaders. They didn't challenge authorities. In Nazi Germany, 1933, students were the first one to enact all sorts of fascist party ideas. They didn't challenge the authority. But something changed. After the Second World War, the university gates opened. Everyone was welcome in. And the most iconic student protest movement started in Berkeley, California. Students fight for the right to speak freely in campus and out campus. The right to organize, to protest injustice beyond the university gates. They were marching, armed link. We have a voice. We are not children. We are the citizens. And they made a change of influence us all. From California to Paris, 1968, students didn't just protest. It was an uprising. They filled up the streets of Paris. They got control of the Sorbonne. They marched. Who decides how we live? Who controls our future? They yelled, be realistic and demand the impossible. And they made a change. From Paris to Tokyo, same year, students in Tokyo, then after that, were fighting, raising their voice, saying this university do not belong to bureaucrats. It belongs to us. We want the right of speech. We want peace. We want the truth. From Tokyo to Hong Kong, 10 years ago, decades after, students with umbrellas and smartphones was raising the voice for democracy. They were demanding to live under democracy, not just learning about it. And there is another type of protest, to stop conflict. Those around the world raised their voices for those who cannot. It was in 1968 with students in Amsterdam fighting for the Vietnamese. And nowadays, many campuses around the world raising the voices in the name of those in Gaza. Those mostly are finished with violence, and we definitely don't promote that. It feels like there is a decline in student power, that even those protests do not make much change in world order. It feels like protests become hashtags, and movements become type of trends, and activism become a really great picture on Instagram, right? I love authentics rather than authentics. Today I want to suggest another form of activism. Activism that builds and not just shouts. The ones that connect values and future. Social entrepreneurs. Let me start with my story. So I was born and raised in Israel, quite safe, educated, middle-class family, and I felt privileged. I entered university, and I started the urge to do something, to make a change, to contribute back to society. I really felt privileged. The first thing I done is to sign on a tutoring program, not just the tutoring students to elementary school, but those elementary students that their parents are in prison. And I didn't went there to rescue them. I thought I will. But then I realized it's not about rescuing them, it's about to connect. It's about to connect, and this is where I understood the power students have. To connect between systems, to connect between social classes, and connect between generations. It didn't start with that. I was studying Japanese studies and political science. And I saw a group among the students in political science. They were quite activist, and I wasn't sure about what, but I was very curious. I understand that alone, it would be hard to make a change. So I approached them. I liked the value, and I appreciate their activism. And started to update the website. So very fast into the process, I decided to run to student union. I was quite surprised that my colleagues, the students at the Japanese department, was quite passive about voting to who would represent them in university, who will be the voice in the policy-making channels at university. So I took the summer to think about what can we do. I recognized the problem as lack of activism, and I thought if we will utilize the students' curiosity, the passion, Japan, maybe then they will contribute. Once they will contribute, they will be so satisfied, they probably want to do it again. So we approached every school in Jerusalem, asking them an hour to teach about Japan. All the students from the department teach about Japan. And then two things happened. One, many students became teachers, project leaders, and other roles in society. And another thing happened is many high school products entered the Japanese studies, and it became the largest department at the humanity faculty. After taking the election for the student union, we went to party at the city center. And this is where I came across the first time about violence among youth in the city center of Jerusalem. And what shocked me the most is that the grown-ups around was quite apathic about it. And I was wondering why. The next day, I already know the new leader of the student union, this girl, and asked him, maybe we can run a project, maybe we can put students at night, instead of sitting in the barn, to sit on the benches with those things and connect. Maybe then we can prevent the next violent case. Together with the City Hall of Jerusalem, with the Welfare Department, we put students at midnight in those areas in the city center, and we become a part of the city. We change the dynamics between teens and the institutions. From one city to another, in 3 years, this project became a national project in every university. And it kept on going. I entered the National Student Union to represent students' rights in academia. And this is when we noticed. Once we graduate and we start to walk and live life, we won't be able to buy an apartment. Prices are rising so fast, and no one raises his voice. So we started to protest for social justice. But we didn't want to go only with hashtags. We were right before hashtags started, but we didn't want to go with this social justice slogan. So we brought professional professors for political science and economy to public parks to talk about different political economies approaches. So everyone can make his own decision and know what the options, to connect it to his other ideologies, a greater ideology, and vote for the next elections, to choose the leaders that will also represent his economic perspectives, finance perspectives. It was the largest social protest in Israel. About 1 million people gathered to protest for their rights for the future living. The result was a great reform that allowed young adults to purchase their houses in a better price. So why you? Why students? And why now? You're not raising kids, and believe me, it takes time of your day. You're not trying to corporate job, you're quite flexible how you run your time in between classes. And this is a rare window to explore and to contribute, to know how you want the future to look like and how you can contribute to it. This is the time to practice those skills. And don't forget, you are superheroes. So what's next? What is social entrepreneurship? Social entrepreneur is the one who is searching for the pain. What hurts? What is missing? How can I solve it? And he dares to take the first steps. He might fail quite a lot. Same as baby takes his 4 steps. But this is how we learn. This is how we get stronger. And this is how finally we will succeed. You don't have to be Mark Zuckerberg and change the future of social medias. You don't need to be Bill Gates. You need to be you. Be curious. Find where the pain is. Be bold. Look what is missing. Take the first step. Be inconvenient. Get out from your comfort zone and take actions, because the future is you, and you can make the change.